All right, so today we're going to be breaking down Solana, its relationship to Apple, and how all of this may be coming together in the month of June, and also maybe getting a detachment away from what's happening in the traditional crypto markets. There's a lot to uncover here. I think you guys are going to like it. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Let's get into it today. I do want to thank our sponsor on this episode, and that is iTrust Capital. If you're looking at long-term holding of your crypto assets and you want to put this into your own investment side as an IRA, you can do that with iTrust Capital. And there's a couple things you can do. You can use Bitcoin, Ethereum, a lot of the different variations of tokens. They have a very wide array available, but you can also do precious metals, so gold and silver as well. So a lot happening over there. Make sure and use our link down below. It does help the channel out, and you get a $100 funding reward if you decide to do something there using that link down below. All right, so let's get into a few things here today. And I want to talk a little bit about just the scenario that's been playing out with Solana in general. And as you guys know, we've kind of been talking about this for maybe a couple of months now, that there really ever since what we saw in terms of the movement on the Solana phone and also some of the movement in general with Solana coming back pretty much at death's door at around $8. Solana's co-founder sees a potential for its blockchain to be the Apple of crypto. A couple of points I wanted to highlight here on the article. Solana has the potential there, obviously becoming the Apple of crypto. Think about Apple having worked close to a decade on latency for touchscreens to allow the iPhone coming out and just felt like magic. Yes, that all happened. There were a lot of things that, to be built on top of that platform, and then the iPhone and the App Store got going, the ecosystem, and obviously you guys know the history. But it all started with one simple, relentless focus on a simple interaction that had to work perfectly. And I think that's kind of where Solana is going in the use case of mobile devices. If you just think about the problem that we've seen with Ledger, the scenarios playing out from a narrative standpoint, Solana and obviously Phantom starting to flow into this, there are some very interesting aspects and attributes of the Solana phone coming out very soon, and how that may apply for not only crypto, but also just in technology in general. I wanted to go over to Anatoly here and listen to what he had to say. This was an interesting quote by him. Let's listen in.
We'll say there's like 400 million crypto users. There's maybe 400 million people that have access to a centralized exchange. But when you guys look at the daily actives between all the chains combined, my gut level check is that it's under 5 million right now, maybe under even like 2 million daily actives, like actual humans signing with self-custody. And that's a very small number of users. That's literally the internet in 1996. Like there were that many people browsing the web, kind of clicking around on random websites. So until we see that number grow to really 100 million active users that are using these systems with self-custody, we actually don't know what product market fit looks like. We don't know what products to build, like what incentives those people want and stuff like that. So that would be the number one metric that I would focus on. I think if crypto doesn't achieve.
All right, so I think totally hit it on the head there. These are very early on right now, so there are some indicators that are kind of showing similar to what happened in the birth of mobile and what we saw with even the iPhone. But getting back to the invention of the internet and how we may see growth there is all going to be on active users. So I would agree with him. But there's going to be a lot of upside here, guys. If you just think about if you had a chance to invest in the technology landscape in the year 1996, that's essentially what he's referencing here. So there's a lot to really pay attention to it. If you look at just the Apple iPhone sales right here worldwide from 2007 on its launch year at 1.39 million to where we are today at 217 million a year, with its high at, right here in 2015 at 231 million units. You can kind of see the opportunity that is set up for whether it is Solana or other devices that will move into the blockchain space. All of this, I think, is going to the next generation of where tech and finance are starting to intersect. So a lot happening out there for sure. A couple other quotes here I wanted to get from Tolle. Listen to what he had to say over here from, of course, the Wolf of All Streets, and that is Mr. Scott Melker we've had on the show. Follow him. If you guys aren't following the Wolf of All Streets, make sure and check him out on YouTube.
Web3 devs can't do anything with those users. But if we get this thing in the hands of like 20, 30,000 like active Web3 users that are generating these massive volumes in crypto, that's probably the most lucrative distribution channel and any mobile dev could ever ask for.
All right, so the point there is, again, right on point, because if you think about what happened in the early stages of mobile, and even all the way back into the early stages of the internet, it's exactly the same thing. It is these hyper users or these hyper devs that were essentially causing, one, testing of the use case, rolling that out, and then eventually seeing the potential of that bell curve adoption that happens in technology so often. Another interview right here with CoinDesk TV, kind of the same thing, but a little bit further on where smartphones in general. Take a listen.
You can't charge 30% tax on Web3 assets because the Web3 assets are not owned by the marketplaces. They're owned by the users. And Magic Eden or Tensor cannot have 30% higher prices on their mobile app store than they do on their desktop. No user is going to pay $13,000 for an NFT that costs $10,000 in the marketplace on the desktop. It just doesn't work. And there's no way for these applications to eat that fee because they don't.
All right, so I think that to the point of the Apple tax, the platform tax, these are the kind of things that will need to work themselves out. And I think Anatoly is dead on here with that opportunity and how this plays into maybe the mobile devices, obviously from the Saga phone, but also some of the platforms out there as well. Further in, another little clip here I wanted to play here of this right here. Listen in.
My career at Qualcomm, so I'm kind of a nerd about this stuff, but like the seed vault on this is really, really cool. It's implemented in the hardware chip itself, and the hardware chip is able to isolate the display and the touch like interfaces from Android. So it's like a trusted, it's called secure display and secure touch, right? Like, so when you're interacting with a seed vault, there's no way for Android to even take a screenshot of that. And there's no way for it to intercept which keys you're typing in. So like, even if like Google decided to try to steal all your keys, they couldn't do it. And that level of security was literally built for crypto before crypto was around. This was like, I think, close to 10 years ago that I remember people were researching this at Qualcomm, like people that I know, like some of the most brilliant engineers. And it's really cool to just like, I knew like the two things that we needed to do in the device to enable this. So it didn't take a very large team to, I think, build a really like world-class product that really doesn't sacrifice on anything. So I'm really.
So I like that, the fact that they've already looked at this as a challenge, in the future in terms of security. It kind of goes back to the video we did talking about Ledger of, is Ledger the new Apple? Maybe our mistake there was, is Solana the new Apple? Are they looking at a new secure mechanism all the way back to Toly's days at Qualcomm from engineers that have been building on this for over a decade? So it's not something new. In fact, this could be one of the very unique aspects of crypto, especially in mobile devices going forward in terms of secure and self-custody. All that playing into where the market is heading right now, away from devices, whether we go into NFC cards, things like that we've talked about here on the show, or if we get into the software aspect itself. Here was another clip also talking about the ecosystem of Solana as well.
Just looking toward the future, AI is now the buzzword of the year. It seems, how is Solana Labs thinking about artificial intelligence? How do you see this fitting into the future ultimately?
Sure. I think as with most verticals, it's multifaceted. So I mentioned render earlier. Those latent GPU supplies at people's houses and their computers that are getting activated for the render network, they can be used not just for render jobs, but for also training and inference on AI networks. Solana Labs also launched a plugin for ChatGPT for accessing the network. This is just another step in making it that much easier to interact with the chain and feel like you're maybe speaking to an advisor or a co-pilot that's helping you navigate the chain and its assets. I think we're.
All right, so he hits on it right there. Of course, we talked a little bit about Solana's feature, I think it was last week, where we showed a little bit about the ChatGPT integration. AI is going to be a thing. I think we'll see it in all chains going forward in crypto, and it's going to make it easier to do on-chain analytics, I think, by a magnitude forward. So we're going to see a lot happening here. Also, Solana coming in with their SIWS, which is the Solana sign in with Solana. Very similar to what you've already seen with sign in with Twitter, Facebook, etc. Kind of that OAuth scenario that gets into websites, but especially into Web3. But more importantly, this could show up in Web 2. And I think that, again, will open up an opportunity for massive adoption going forward. Let's not forget that Apple is still dealing with downtimes when they're trying to do OAuth applications. So signing into Apple using, I'm sure you guys have seen this many times, trying to sign in using your Apple ecosystem, and there's problems there that still happen today. So this is not something that I think is easy, but it is something that most of the tech community out there is definitely moving forward with. So I like that. Here was a tweet by us, VVAR integration at Phantom Wallet, giving NFTs direct access to Instagram stories. This, I think, will be more and more relevant into how Phantom is starting to move. And they even talked about this in terms of AI and how this would look inside the wallets themselves, and AR, I should say, overall. So this is another good example of how Phantom is really kind of, stretching the boundaries of what capacity is within a wallet itself. So interesting stuff going forward. Of course, Solana kind of hitting on all cylinders. This was breaking from Star Atlas, another opportunity right here. Again, all this leaning into what's happening in June. A lot of gaming, a lot of AR, VR, and of course the big headset makers themselves starting to leak out information we saw from Meta, and then obviously Apple's big event in June. So you've got Star Atlas coming in that you'll be able to right here, literally just around the corner on June 1st. A lot of movement there. Then of course you have the Apple event coming up right here, WWDC. Likelihood it is somewhat confirmed that we're going to get a VR device, AR device, whatever you want to, XR in their particular case. Device. So this is going to start to affect a lot of different projects and tokens. One that will be affected is, of course, No Man's Sky. Right here, Sean Murray, their CEO, just basically tweeting out an Apple. So I kind of think we might know for sure this is going to happen. Now, remember, there's a couple of things that are going on within the gaming ecosystem. Right here is No Man's Sky. All right, in comparison to, direct comparison to StarField, we put that in the mix of Star Atlas, and you've got kind of a combobulation of various games that play all into the ecosystem with Solana that is starting to go into the potential of maybe a VR or XR headset coming out of Apple as a whole. So lots of things kind of pushing in that direction. Let's not forget the other aspect of Solana that's moving, and that is the compressed NFTs. Again, this goes against the grain in the sense of just reducing costs, getting down to lower fees, etc., but also being able to compound growth. Because remember, this is going to be a scenario that we need to scale for future growth as we start to see this going. Back to what Tully said earlier, it's still only a handful of people that, and this is around, they think, somewhere around 2 million daily active users, that are really causing a lot of what's happening within the ecosystem of Solana and crypto in general. So good stuff. If you just look at some of the data here on compressed NFTs, you can kind of see the big jump right here. Again, more starting to move, and this is just the candy machine scenario playing out here. All right, so further into this, I want to talk a lot about Render. You've heard us say Render's also in this game in terms of another token that gets into this ecosystem. We've talked about doing a bit of an outline for you guys. I'll show it to you, actually, some of the tokens that we've put in our own watch list. But Render, of course, now is going to be burned within the Apple ecosystem right there. So obviously we know the connection into Octane right there. You saw the logo. If you kind of scan through, they'll show it right there. That's Render, guys, right there. All tied into the iPad for rendering technologies. You look at this right here, and this is another aspect of it. Blockchain-based render is now starting to maybe separate a little bit away from what the current market is doing around general tech. And then they're saying here it decouples. If you look at that, you can kind of see total market cap, what's happening out there, as well as the render token itself. So interesting stuff. I think we might be in a very unique position right now with technology to where there's a lot of new players coming to the table. Number one, there's new technology coming to the table, both on VR, AR, AI, blockchain, all starting to somewhat work in unison, and a lot of key projects that are going to start playing out in this next bull run. So there's some opportunities here, I think, for some massive run-ups. And if you think about, whether it's 50x, 100x type projects out there, do we see VR, AR actually go that direction versus the gaming? I think in unison they work together, and the right kind of gaming tokens, you've heard me say this before, I think gaming is the next big winner here for sure on our next run in crypto. Solana Labs created an open source reference. This was the thing I was referencing earlier for ChatGPT. A plugin that lets users interact with Solana's network directly from ChatGPT. You're going to be able to do anything and everything. Enabled to draw data and also analyze tool sets within that ecosystem. As the ecosystem itself is growing, AI is essentially going to be able to learn and catalog all these growth components, which would give us back feedback on how Solana in general is doing as a network, which I think is super powerful going forward. So again, maybe Solana is in the right place at the right time. You've got games, you've got NFTs, you've got this growth in AR, VR in terms of an opportunity with all these related projects. You've got projects like Claynosaurz right here, also launching right here. So you've got more and more innovation. Again, remember, we've talked about this one before, that's happening within that ecosystem. So all playing in to the right spot. If you just look at how Claynosaurz is trading over here on Magic Eden, you can kind of see just the growth of what's been happening. So it's all been up. And that is another aspect of where growth is going to be coming from, especially around NFTs within the Sol ecosystem going forward. Good stuff. Magic Eden talking right here. Welcome chapter 2. It's time to make some changes. Today we're launching the NFT aggregation on Solana, embracing composability, offering some actual fees to trade on Magic Eden. So again, now you're going to get paid to trade over on Magic Eden. Back to Tully's remarks, though, I think he is exactly right. Fees in terms of these, these so-called platform taxes, I think this is going to be one of the biggest challenges that have to start. But one of these projects or platforms is going to break and make a move, and I think that will be one to be paying attention to in terms of growth. Just to give you an example of Solana's cumulative wallets right here, big little bump right here that's just here in the last few weeks. And then if you go further into monthly active wallets, you can kind of see the spike that we've seen right here. So again, I don't know that necessarily the price has completely correlated with this. If you just look at Solana where it is right now, it flipped Polygon. But Polygon and Solana have been rotating. But just look at the difference in terms of volume right here, 344, 300 million. Obviously, the growth right here on market cap is literally neck and neck on Polygon and Solana as a whole. What else did I want to hit on? Oh, yeah, this one right here, Helium Mobile, which you guys know we've covered this quite a bit before. This, of course, still to get $25 a month unlimited. So don't forget, there's still that relationship between what's happening with Helium and Solana. Also, don't forget that Solana is one of the tokens that I think will benefit a lot from what we will see in the Chinese markets, with obviously Hong Kong opening up to this. But Huobi Global today, China is aping in now to Solana. Remember, June 1st, Chinese citizens can buy crypto. That's literally a handful of days away to what's going to be happening, guys. So are we ahead right before a major push on this? We'll see. Is Solana going to be... There's so many things happening in June right now. There's just so many different opportunities here in terms of whether it's short-term runs. Just be cautious out there if you're out there betting on some of these for sure. I wanted to take a look at Render right here. Just in general, obviously up a little bit, but still down from its somewhat high back here when Render was trading right there end of May on the 26th at around 280. Does it get back is the big question there. And then if you go up here and look at Solana, let's take a look at Sol real quick. This one, of course, has had a pretty good upside run. Sentiment has been very, very strong on this. If you're in our mastermind group, you already know what I've been talking about there around Sol. Sol is one that we've repositioned in our portfolio and starting to gain a little bit more, just adding in dollar cost averaging into Solana right now. I had kind of wished we'd purchase more around the $19 to $20 mark. But hey, listen, you're still at only $21.29 on this token. With everything that's happening, along with possibly Hong Kong being a major play into this, this could be one of those you need to pay attention to if you are not in Solana today. Just wanted to kind of keep your eyes out there going forward. All right, so listen, lots happening. We're going to get a lot more videos out for you today because there's so many elements that are going to be affected by what's happening within the Apple June 5th launch, as well as a lot of projects, VR projects that are starting to pump. Follow our videos from last week. Make sure and subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell so you'll get notifications when we do live stuff. But best of all, you'll get a chance to see a lot of this. Oh yeah, I promised to show you the VR list. Let me show you that real quick. This is the VR index we're currently tracking. So we put RFox in it. We've got Network in there. Render, let me just pop in on these real quick. There's Network with a nice little pump. RFox, if you've been following, you've seen this one run up. Render, of course, there's Vulcan Forge, a little bit sideways and down. Seek VR, this is another one we're watching. Block is in here. We've got it. Wild, which is our pick of the week kind of from last video. This one has been trending up for quite some time. If you go back in here and just look back here to May 15th, nice little run up right there at 36%. Atlas in there, of course. There's a Fin. There's VR. Here's Over. This is one we are actually invested in right now on Over. There's Somnium with Cube trading under Somnium Space, and then Sensorium, and then Real. So these are the ones we're watching overall. Right now, I can tell you, Red Fox we're in. We have not made a trade on Network yet. I haven't, but we were looking at this one. I'm holding some Render. Seek, I'm looking at. And Wild, I'm in, and then Over, I'm also in on this one as well. So these are just some ideas of how we're playing this. Again, these are short terms. They are extremely high risk, so don't invest in those. These are extremely high risk, but it's something that we're playing with mainly because we're a tech channel, we're a crypto channel. We believe in how technology is moving forward. So if you believe that, then you should be in our diamond circle. And all you have to do is jump right in. It's the link down below. Catch it. We do a lot of additional content, some video, as well as chart analysis. All that's done over there, as well as additional podcasts. All caught on the Diamond Circle. And of course, if you want to reach me, it's out there on Twitter, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.